everyone. I'm Lydia Lockwood. Welcome to In Depth with Tommy Media, a show that explores campus issues that affect you. Drinking in college has become a ritual, according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. A 2015 federal survey found almost 59% of people ages 18 to 25 used alcohol in the month prior to the survey, and 39% engaged in binge drinking during that time. Today's guest, Dr. Jessica Siegel, specializes in drugs and the brain. She believes the more you know about alcohol consumption, the more power you have. I'm joined today by Professor Jessica Siegel. Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
So my first question for you, what do you think about the percentages in the survey, 60% drinking and 40% engaging in binge drinking?
I think they sound high, but accurate. So the National Institutes of Health does a great job of collecting that data. We can assume they're pretty accurate. And it's what professors and parents and students often report, anecdotally, that there's pretty high levels of drinking and underage drinking on college campuses, and that binge drinking rates are higher on college campuses than in any other situation or other age group. So certainly we see that, and it's something to think about and be concerned about for sure.
Yeah, so what defines binge drinking and what would put a person more at risk?
So binge drinking is defined by the CDC as, if you are male, 5 drinks in a row in 2 hours, one sitting, defined as 2 hours. And if you're female, it's 4 drinks in a row in that 2-hour period. So those are the technical definitions of binge drinking. Essentially, for your own practices and experiences, it's consuming a lot of alcohol beyond just enjoying a beverage that results in higher levels of intoxication. And so there's lots of ways to think about binge drinking, to avoid binge drinking. Certainly just knowing those definitions and what they mean. People can think about slowing down a little bit, maybe switching with water. There's a lot of different tricks like that to try to mitigate binge drinking and its effects.
Yeah. In your findings, where do you find that binge drinking occurs the most and why?
So we see that, and this is based on those surveys again, that on college campuses is where it happens the most. This is not something we see happening statistically at high levels after college, before college. So this is something that the rates are much higher on college campuses. Reasons for that, there's lots of speculation about why that occurs. It could just possibly be the expectations of cultures when one comes to college campuses, the fact that people are living in close quarters and sort of modeling the behavior that they perceive to be a norm or that they are seeing. But college campuses, that's where we're seeing at the highest rates. Okay,
and what are some misconceptions about binge drinking?
I would say some misconceptions are that it is safe and fun. I don't know, there's certainly nothing fun about becoming violently ill from alcohol. There's nothing fun about going to the hospital for alcohol poisoning. There's certainly nothing fun about potentially consuming a lethal amount of alcohol. All of those things are consequences of binge drinking. So misconceptions, I think, are about the effects and what can happen, but also about how easily it can happen. I think people are surprised to learn that 4 and 5 drink number. That a lot of times I've heard from students that seems low, but that's how we nationally define this, and it's based on the physiology of what's happening in your body after consuming that much alcohol in that short amount of time.
So how quickly can alcohol negatively affect the brain?
Well, immediately. So alcohol, once any drug is ingested, whether it's alcohol or any other drug, it gets to the brain very rapidly, and it's going to start exerting its effects. Those effects are going to depend on how much is consumed, how quickly it's consumed, and the blood alcohol levels or content at that point in time. But the effects will start immediately. The thing about binge drinking that's concerning is that you're putting the alcohol in your body, and then by consuming further drinks or shots or whatever it is rapidly thereafter, you're building up that dose of alcohol in your blood and in your brain. And so the effects of consuming that in that short amount of time just become kind of compound on one another and become more severe. And they're harder to regulate. You're not as able to say, oh, maybe I'm getting a little too intoxicated or not feeling well, I think I should stop. Once it's in, that's the problem with binge drinking. Once it's in, you no longer have the ability to say, I want to take a step back.
So what are some myths to sobering up?
So once alcohol is consumed, whether it's quickly or slowly, no matter what, it's consumed and it's in your blood, there's nothing that can sober you up except for time. And so that's probably, anytime you hear someone say drinking water will help you be more sober, some of the common ones are drinking coffee, maybe misusing ADHD medications to kind of wake you up and stimulate behavior, cold air, cold shower. All of those are very common myths that people think might make them more sober. The reason that's a myth is because once the alcohol is in your body, there's nothing that is going to change that level. The only thing that changes it is your natural metabolic process and the enzymes that are going to break down the alcohol. And that simply takes time. So that links back to the major risk with binge drinking. If you consume too much very quickly, then you're stuck with that dose. And if that's a dangerous dose or a lethal dose, you're in trouble.
What guidance do you offer for students when it comes to alcohol consumption?
Yeah, so if you're gonna choose to consume alcohol, there's lots of really great guides and tricks you can use to monitor your level of intoxication and to consume in just a responsible, knowledgeable way. So things like drinking slower, not binge drinking, right? That's a main one. So just slow it down, be more conscious of how fast you're consuming and how you're feeling. Drinking games and things like that we tend to see happening, that's not a good way to monitor how quickly you're becoming intoxicated, because it never gives you a chance to actually feel the effects before so much has been consumed. So slowing it down, some tricks to do that would be switch between an alcoholic drink and a water, and then alcoholic drink and a water, or a non-alcoholic drink. That's one way to monitor that. Also, drinking while eating is a good trick. What happens is when you consume alcohol, it goes from your stomach into your bloodstream. The rate of that movement into your bloodstream is faster if you don't have food in your stomach. So one can get much more intoxicated than maybe they wanted or intended if they're drinking on an empty stomach. When you have food in there, it just slows everything down, so you're more able to say, all right, I'm feeling like I've reached whatever level of intoxication I'm happy with, I'm feeling a little buzz, and I'm gonna stop here, I'm gonna take a step back and slow it down. And maybe I'll have another drink in an hour or so, but for now, I'm okay. And the food helps you slow down that process and kind of see where you're at. So eating and switching with non-alcoholic drinks and slowing it down in general.
Yes. Well, if you have a comment or an idea for a future in-depth segment, tweet it to @TommyMedia. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
With Professor Jessica Siegel, I'm Lydia Lockwood. We'll see you next time when we go in depth with Tommy Media.